Jesus was married metaphorically to his wife, the church. Despite any perceived or actual flaws, no good husband condones people speaking ill of his wife, even if what's said is true. That doesn't mean we avoid questions, concerns, or difficult conversations. No, the best marriages tackle issues with respect, love, and dignified dialogue. Likewise, we should be careful how we speak of Christ's wife. After all, he died for her and still stands next to her today.
Lots to unpack, but I won't be leaving a single crumb, don't worry. Firstly, let's address the fact that Mike is comparing a non-sentient male-led corporation to a woman, more specifically a wife. Fun fact, Joseph Smith taught that women should submit themselves to their husband because the husband is the head of the wife. Brigham Young taught that men should never love their wives so much that they couldn't leave them at a moment's warning without shedding a tear. Heber C. Kimball said he thought no more of taking a wife than he did of buying a cow. Just a few quotes from LDS prophets to kind of set the scene. In a patriarchal system like Mormonism, women have less power, and the power they do have comes through men. It's both granted and revoked through men, and they're rewarded for upholding the patriarchy. That is to say, the system that prioritizes the comfort, experiences, thoughts, and freedom of men over women. Patriarchy creates both overt sexism, women not being able to have the priesthood or assume positions of power, and covert sexism, which is often described as benevolent sexism. This is the whole we can't talk about Heavenly Mother because she's too sacred thing, and women don't have the priesthood because they're actually more spiritual than men, so men need it more. So to compare an extremely powerful male-led system to a wife under patriarchy is just bad rhetoric, to say nothing of how weird it is that a style of marriage introduced in the 18th century seems to so firmly dominate Mike's conceptualization of reality. But back to Mike's point that no good husband condones people speaking ill of his wife. Generally speaking, I think that's true. I think in healthy partnerships, you're not down to listen to people talk shit on your partner. But I also think that good husbands, were they to find out that their wife was grooming children for marriage, protecting child predators to maintain her own image, committing financial fraud, lying to people she had enormous power and influence over, and teaching people, including children, objectively harmful things, wouldn't continue to sweep those things under the rug and would hopefully leave her, especially if those kinds of abuses of power were able to continue happening precisely because they were being swept under the rug by him. Mike says the best marriages tackle issues with respect, love, and dignified dialogue, but anyone who spent any significant amount of time in the LDS church knows exactly what he's advocating for here, and that functionally, it just looks like more under the rug sweeping, because for people like Mike, who have been conditioned to be psychologically dependent on Mormonism, to challenge the organization's truth claims or leadership in any meaningful way, or in any way that doesn't always lead back to Mormonism being true and led by divinely appointed men, is far too threatening. Our brains are wired to protect our deeply held beliefs at all costs, even when we're presented with evidence that they're false, which is why we constantly see takes like this. It's very normal in high control groups for leaders and members to always be advocating for, don't criticize the system or the leaders. I think it is deeply loving and respectful of our shared humanity to tell the truth, even when it's hard, especially when the truth empowers the most vulnerable among us. I think nothing says dignified dialogue like being willing to ask difficult, even painful questions and to challenge authority when it isn't being used healthily, as Jesus allegedly did. I think it's a deeply loving, respectful, dignified act to do the terrifying work of examining your own beliefs in light of the evidence that they may be false and or harmful to yourself and others. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is not a woman. It's a multi-billion-dollar organization with enormous political, social, and financial power, and it continues to use that power to try and legally disenfranchise LGBTQ people, subjugate women, lie to its members, and uphold a fraudulent child predator's ethnocentric fantasy stories about Native American people as history, among many, many other things. For a man in a patriarchal system to try and compare this incredibly powerful system to a woman is to try and paint it as less powerful than it is, more vulnerable than it is, which is incredibly convenient when it comes to the abuses of power we've talked about being able to continue. I don't think Mike wants dignified dialogue. I think he wants people to stop criticizing his church. Also, he deleted my comments from his video. Fun fact.